The cold air floated around me as I stayed put in the ice tub as Dad had said to do. Then, suddenly, I heard voices coming out of the freezer door. They were getting closer and closer and closer until the freezer door opened and light spread into the area and a hand grabbed out to me and all of my family. We were yanked out of our home and taken and crashed down on the side. When I had recovered, I checked myself over and found no injuries, so I looked around at where I was. I saw a water fountain thing, which the big people call a water machine, so I began to move towards it so that I could hide behind it. Once I had made it behind, I was about to yell out to my family when a big hand came and scooped them up and plopped them into a glass of water. And they made a huge splash. But then the human realised that she only had a couple of the ice cubes and she was missing one from the total amount that she got out of the freezer. So she began to hunt around to find me. Her eyes were glazing over the surface when they came to rest upon me. A hand reached out, grabbed me and put me straight into here with another big splash. And we were left on the side for a while just for us to cool down. And we began to melt. When I was dropped into the cup, I could feel myself beginning to change. From all of the warm water being around me, I started to melt. And I went from being this type of an ice cube into being a liquid or water, because I was an ice cube made out of water. I changed from this into this. My dad said that this is called melting from a solid into a liquid. The reason that a solid changes to a liquid is because when a solid is a solid, it has molecules that are extremely close together and can only move or vibrate in its own space. But when it is a liquid, it can move around a little bit because the molecules are like this. And it can move like that or like that. The molecules change from a solid to a liquid when heat or energy is being added to the solid object. This then allows the molecules to move around a little bit easier. Once we were all water, the big person came back and began tipping us. Slowly we were tipping over and over and over like that. But while we were doing it, we were also moving towards the kettle. So in the end, we ended up tipping over into the kettle. So all of the water here went into the kettle. And we began to boil from all of the heat closing in around us. And we also began to lose our shape. When we were losing our shape from getting more hot, we went from being beads of liquid, like these, into being a gas or steam. Now these are the liquid molecules, and these are the gas molecules. And when a liquid goes to gas, it happens because you're adding on even more heat or energy, and that then allows it to change. My dad told me that this process is called evaporation or vaporization. When you're adding on even more heat or energy, the molecules change from being like this and being able to move around a little bit to being like this, where they can move around as much as they want. Also, a solid has a fixed shape and volume, and so does a liquid. But a liquid can move around and can take up the shape of whatever it wants. so it only has a fixed volume. But a gas has not a fixed shape and not a fixed volume at all. It can move around, it can be whatever shape, and it can be however big or little it wants. These are the liquid molecules, and these are the gas ones. When we had done boiling, I realised that I was the only one left because all of my family had been evaporated. So I got picked up out of the kettle and poured into this cup, and then I was taken upstairs. We went up the stairs one by one, and then I went into this strange room which they called the bathroom. When the human walked in, she turned on the shower and it turned on with a huge noise, and then put me on top of this table. But I began to feel strange. I was getting warmer and warmer and warmer until I seemed to float out of the room and be attracted to a mirror. I went from here over to the mirror and turned into condensation. When I moved to the mirror, I was in a gas form where the molecules could move around as much as they wanted. But when I went onto the mirror, I became a liquid where the molecules could still move around a little, just not as much. And now, because I went to the mirror, I lost energy, or it was taken away, and I lost heat as well. This process is called condensation. Just then a hand came out through the door, which was slowly opening, and took me away. We began to travel down the stairs with the person and into the kitchen. Then, once we had gotten to the bottom of the stairs, we went into the kitchen and I recognised the freezer. The human dumped the water into an ice tray, well, just a normal tray, and then put it into the freezer. Then we began to freeze up, and it was amazing to know that I was back home.